Welcome to the Life of a Marketer podcast once again. And today's guest is Raychel. Raychel, I'm happy to have you on. And as usual, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. So go ahead and tell us about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, yes, I'm Raychel Kolen. I own Muse Marketing and Design in Eugene, Oregon. And I kind of do a little bit of everything. I keep telling myself I need to specialize, and then I find the variety interesting. And I've been fortunate enough that I've just had enough clients coming to me that I just say yes to all the things and haven't needed to work hard to market myself. So, I would say some of the things I find myself doing most often are email marketing. Clients love that, and I think get excited about paying for it because they see great ROI. I do a lot of digital advertising or partner with folks like yourself with digital advertising. And then a lot of marketing strategy. Sometimes a client will come to me and say, hey, I need a brochure made for this thing. And as we're talking, what we realize is really they don't have any marketing strategy for their business, or they don't have any like real brand positioning or a really good sense of their brand. And so I often convince them that we need to take a few steps back, and it turns into like a marketing audit. And then recommendations flow from that. And often they ask for my help in implementing those recommendations. So I found that I work with a lot of founder-led brands, a lot in food and beverage, sustainable business. And they've been doing their marketing themselves, and they're like ready to get some professional help. And they come to me and I say, like, sure, I can help you with that. So I don't know if that's that's kind of a roundabout answer to your question, but yeah, a little bit of everything.
No, that's perfect. Thanks for sharing that with us. I appreciate that a lot. And what's your main client? You have a main client?
I usually have about 10 to 15 clients at any given time. I will give a shout out to United Plant Savers, which is a client that's been with me since I founded my business in 2019. They're a nonprofit that's based on the East Coast. So it's fun, to work across multiple time zones. I'm not just stuck in working with Oregon, although Oregon's great too. So anyway, United Plant Savers is a nonprofit that advocates for plants. I think a lot of people think about endangered species being animals and like, oh, we have to save this big mammal, but there's also hundreds of plants that are at risk. And this organization works on advocating for them, raising awareness about the issues, working with the herbal industry, which is where a lot of my other clients are, to help them understand how to source their herbs sustainably. And they're just an awesome organization with a very long history that's doing a lot with a little, and I'm honored to be on their team. So yeah, United Plant Savers, check them out.
Interesting. Yeah, I have already checked them out, but I recommend everybody look at
You have.
the organization. So changing gears a little bit, what's the best thing about being in the marketing industry?
I think so. I've been doing it for almost 20 years. I started in marketing in 2004. And before that was in journalism. But I think like it's never boring. It's also what's hard about marketing is it's constantly changing, and things change sometimes within a day or a week. So it's hard to stay on top of it all, but that definitely has kept my interest for 20 years. And I'm sure it could for 20 more. So I just think it's very dynamic. And the other thing that I really like, I do a lot of like performance marketing, is the satisfaction of seeing results. So it's like we do something well and the client makes more money, or we do something well and the client gets more people to go to their event. And that's really satisfying for me to see that my work is making a difference.
Awesome. I agree
How's
with
that?
Yeah, awesome. What sort of advice do you offer to those that are in the marketing industry right now?
I mean, they probably 9 out of 10 of them know more than I do. So I just think, kind of going with my last answer, how things are changing all the time. It just seems like there's a lot of need to stay on top of it. So I try to allocate time every week for professional development, whether it's just spending time reading resources I can find on the internet or attending a conference, often virtually these days, or connecting with another colleague and just like talking about best practices. So I think I'm sure other people who are successful are already doing that. Reading a book too is another thing I should add, or listening. I often audible my books. So I think just, yeah, taking the time to keep up with what's going on and to not, I have my own business. And so I feel like I could get stuck in a tunnel of doing things the way I've always done them. And so how do I keep expanding my horizons is kind of by reaching out and talking to people and reading lots of information and absorbing it all. And then knowing what to get rid of and what's worthwhile to keep. I'm going to try to test out in future marketing efforts on behalf of my clients.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So
yeah,
dive in a little bit. You mentioned that you work a lot with email. So I want to dive into that a little bit because we don't have that many email people on the podcast. So
great.
What are kind of a couple of tips that you can give? What are some of the keys to successfully getting a return on email?
I think one is details matter. So I've noticed some of my clients who've been trying to DIY their emails will overlook, like they don't look at their analytics or they overlook trends they're seeing and just rely on what they like versus what's making the difference. And it can be so small, like A/B testing. I A/B test every email that I do because there's always something to tweak. And so it can be as small as like, should the emoji in the subject line go at the beginning or the end? And that can have a 1 or 2% impact on open rates. And that's huge. So I think details matter, and building a quality list. It doesn't have to be huge, although I will say my clients with the bigger lists generate more revenue and more actions from that. So definitely like never losing sight of building your list and continuing to add to it, because there will be attrition. People are always unsubscribing, though hopefully at a lower rate than the people that you're at. And then I think, like not spamming people, having quality content that people want and not overloading them. That's another thing I see a lot when I start working with an organization, is they'll like send these massive emails. They'll send it like once a month and it'll have everything in the kitchen sink in there. And it's like too overwhelming, and the important messages get diluted and they don't see results from that. So I generally recommend sticking to 1 to 3 different ideas in your email. So no more than like 3 content blocks and 1 call to action per content block. So like, what is the thing we want people to walk away with? We're not going to ask them to do, and this is the same as digital advertising too, but like, we don't want to ask them to do 5 different things in that one piece of content. We're going to say like, we want you to sign up for this event. We want you to buy this product. We want you to read this blog, read the blog, but we're not going to ask them to do all these things in one email. So I think, following those 3 things will really set someone up for success with email marketing.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those tips. That's really good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Switching gears just a little bit. This is the part of the podcast where we're a little selfish with this question. But it also gives you to make a shout out to somebody. What other successful people in marketing like yourself would you like to acknowledge that should be on the podcast?
Okay, so I use for my SEO work with clients, I subscribe to Ubersuggest. So Neil Patel, he puts out a lot of his own content, but you might as well invite him on your podcast too. Maybe it's a yes. I just think he's got yeah, I know. He's got a great tool. It's cost effective. I find it really user friendly, and he just seems to know a lot and be really well connected. So I always appreciate like getting his emails and reading what he has to say. So love to hear him on your podcast.
Yeah, he's a smart guy in general when it comes to marketing. I use Ubersuggest constantly. I use a lot of his different tools, but one of my favorite ones that he has, I can't remember the name of it now. It's called 10 Reasons or something like that. But what it is it's on his site. It's on his his same domain. But you go there, you can put in a keyword It's better like 2 or 3 words, and you can see what are the top questions that people have about a particular subject.
Oh,
Um,
it's like Answer the Public. I think he bought
right,
maybe
right, yeah, and
that.
that
And
is
it's like a little web of stuff.
yeah, and that is fantastic. If you've ever gone to use that, so this is a good tip for everyone because I haven't talked about my podcast. If you go there, I think it's called Answer the Questions. Let's look it up. I'll look it up real fast while we're,
Okay.
but it'll give you, and it also has a paid version of it that will go into more. It's answerthepublic.com.
Yeah.
And
I think it was an existing site that he purchased and just
really, I didn't know that, but it's got his picture on it now, and answerthepublic.com. So if you enter a topic or a product or a brand, it's going to give you all the main questions that people are asking. And I use that a lot in content marketing. So I look up a subject and what are people asking about, and then you can answer the question. And so that can be also useful if you're setting up a website, maybe an email series about frequently asked questions that people have. All sorts of uses for that. So thanks for the recommendation for Neil Patel. Maybe I'll go for it. Maybe I'll ask him on the podcast, and who knows? You never know. Not sure how I'd get a hold of him, but maybe we'll see. All right, one final question, which is just for fun. Tell me the oldest technology you remember using.
in marketing or in my life.
Take it any direction you want.
I just keep thinking my TI 84 calculator.
Oh,
But I think since I've been in marketing, I've probably used Excel when I need to do math. In marketing, I mean, because I've been doing it for 20 years, like we used to do a lot with like phone, like a lot of telemarketing, and also lots of being really thoughtful about what does the voicemail say and the hold message say on our office phone when someone picks up. So I just remember spending a lot more time thinking about landlines than I do now.
oh yeah, yeah.
What was the oldest technology you remember using? That's a fun
Me.
question. Yeah.
Oh, well, no one ever turned the question on me, so I've never actually, really, to be honest. The oldest technology that I can remember using, I think it's probably this really old black and white TV that my parents had from somewhere that somebody gave them or something that was just sitting around. And we had our regular TV in the living room, but they had this antique TV with with the dog ears with the antenna. So sometimes I
No
would
remote.
plug it in and just mess with it, and because it's sitting in my room, and it would pick up channels, and I would actually watch some things sometimes in black and white. And
Amazing.
so it must have been, I don't know, from the 1950s, maybe. I don't know from when it was from, 1960s maybe, but I was born in the 80s, and we definitely had a color TV then. So that's probably the oldest thing that I ever used. And then someone had also given us an old Atari, which at that time was completely obsolete, and I would plug it into that TV and play it in black and white, just for like Atari. By the time that I could do that, they already had like Nintendo and all that. But it was just to mess with it, and it was just antique. And so that's probably the oldest technology I remember using.
Very cool.
All right, awesome. All right, well, we keep our podcast short, so we're gonna in here. Raychel, thanks so much for being on the podcast, and everyone, as usual, we stream this on Tuesdays or Thursdays at 11 something. The best way to get to the podcast is to subscribe to the podcast page on YouTube. And then if you want to see it on social media, we do stream it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so you can do that as well. Please like it, subscribe to it, give us some love. And this has been an awesome podcast, Raychel. So thank you so much once again. Over and out, everybody.
You bet. Thanks for having me.